It is Sunday morning of Thanksgiving week, otherwise known as MoWino Gobble Gobble week, and I am improvising, stealing, borrowing, whatever you want to call it, an idea that I read or saw on the Food Network about a year or two ago from Ina Garten, the great chef. Everything Ina does is perfect and fabulous. Anyway, she suggested about making a turkey base to have ready to go on Thanksgiving when you pull out your turkey to enhance your gravy if you need help. And I've always bought an emergency jar of some gourmet gravy if our gravy flopped. But last year I followed Ina's recipe and it was a great enhancement to our drippings and our gravy process. And it also extended and made a lot more than we needed for good for leftovers. So this year I am going to improvise from my memory and add my own little creativity to Ina Garten's gravy base. So I thought you would enjoy that process with us. So you've seen the ingredients, and now I'm going to saute our onions and our garlic and get that going in the butter, and then I'll bring you back. We're adding 1/4 slice red onion, and I'm adding 3 very large cloves of smashed peeled garlic. And we're just going to saute this for a while until the onions become translucent and the garlic infuses into the butter and the onions. And we'll be done. Okay, so our onions and garlic have softened and are almost translucent, and the aromas are absolutely incredible. So now we started off with 6 tablespoons of butter, and you're supposed to put equal fat to equal amount of flour. We're going to use cornstarch because we're making our gravy gluten-free. So you can use flour if that's not an issue for you. But here we go. And this I'm now using to thicken, or what will be the thickening agent of our gravy base that we'll add to our drippings on Thanksgiving. So basically we just, whoops, we got a little sucker that flew out of the pan. So now we are adding my touch, a 1/2 cup of a Rioja wine, because my Thanksgiving is going to have a Spanish flair of spices and seasoning. And now we are going to add low sodium boxed chicken broth. Now, normally I would make my own broth, but I have to say, during this pandemic, that I've been cooking so much that my homemade broths can't keep up with my cooking. I'm cooking too much. So, been buying a lot of store-bought broth. Just make sure you buy low sodium, and you should be fine. Okay, I'm adding all 4 cups to this. Because remember, here, the whole purpose for us is to create an extension of our dripping gravy. So now I'm going to bring this up to a boil so that it thickens. And I'm going to add some more flavor. Part of my urban composting, as I always said, save your stems of your button top mushrooms so that you can use them 2 ways. So these are my stems from just about a cup of mushrooms that I had in the fridge that I'm going to stuff later. Adding that flavor component. And also too, I know a lot of people use sage, but my rosemary bush is growing ferociously and my sage is not. So I am just going to put the leaves of 2, whoops, another one jumped around. Just pull it off. Now, the reason I'm not worrying about chopping it is because when this is all done, we are going to strain this through a cheesecloth. So, don't need to spend the time cutting everything up. And then I'm also going to add, because my thyme bush is going lovely, I'm going to add a few leaves of thyme. You know, you don't have to follow the traditional rules. Everybody says sage with turkey. Truthfully, I don't really even like sage. And when I buy it in dried forms, I use like a half a teaspoon for some recipe, then it sits on the shelf forever. So I tried growing my own this year. Anyway, it's a work in progress. Okay, so we have now added our mushrooms, rosemary, and thyme. And I'm not going to add any salt because our drippings are going to have their own flavor component, but I am going to add some pepper. Okay, so now we're going to let this come up to a boil so it will thicken from our cornstarch, and then let it simmer, I would say for a good 20 minutes, maybe a half an hour, and then we'll check on it and see how it is. And then we will go from there. Stay tuned. Okay, we have come up now to a boil, and there is a pretty good layer of thickness here. And I don't know if you'll be able to see, but the main way to tell if your gravy is thick, you get it on the back of your spoon, and you can see the line there. I don't know if you can see in the camera, but it's very hot, so it's hard to show. Anyway, I'm going to let this simmer now for at least 20 to 30 minutes, and then we will strain out the onions and the mushrooms and the fresh herbs and the garlic cloves. And then we will let it cool, and we're going to put it in a Tupperware and put it in our fridge to save it until Thanksgiving morning, otherwise known as MoWino Gobble Gobble Day.